Okay, I'm going to try to finish up this little Lake Mojave point. I have a step fracture issue here, but it's not too bad. Believe it or not, one of the hardest things to do is to try to keep this thick. Which means I can't really remove big, gigantic, deep flakes, because then it'll thin it down too much. Why did they keep these things thick? I don't know if they kept them thick on purpose. They may have been working with fragile stone that they wanted to prevent from breaking. Their hunting style was very rough, maybe, and they didn't want their points to be breaking off while they were chasing the game or going through the underbrush, or rattling around in the quiver with a bunch of other points. There's various reasons why you would want a thick, very hefty point. Not all these paleotypes or transitional paleotypes were thick. Some of them were extremely delicate, like the Folsom. So it can't be like the mindset, a general mindset of thick, clunky tools. There had to have been a reason. It could be just as simple as it's much easier. They didn't want to mess with it. They didn't want to mess with the hard stuff and try to do fancy thinness or fancy flaking styles. Could be various reasons why they left them thick. All right, so I'm just gonna creep up on it slowly. Some of these had diamond-shaped cross sections, right? I don't know if I'll be able to do that with a median ridge. I might be able to do it. This particular stone is not too bad. It's consistent, right? So if you have a consistent stone, you can drive flakes pretty predictably, and you can kind of calculate that they're going to go to the middle or not. This particular piece is acting pretty good. It's behaving, so I can probably gauge it well enough to strike toward the middle and try to get a median ridge going. A lot of you guys want me to do this with abo tools. Because you have a mean streak. No. But right now I'm not going to be working with abo tools until it gets warmer so I can work outside. Why is that? It just gives me an excuse to wait. Besides, it's extremely frustrating to work with abo tools. So if I'm cramped here in the back of my van, fussing around with these antler flakers and hammerstones, and I'm hitting the sides and hitting the camera and hitting, my knees are up very close to my chest, it just gets a little bit much. Dealing with natural tools is not easy. Now it can get easier the more you use them. Yeah, that is true. The more you use them, the easier they get. The more your brain adapts to them. But I like the ease of the modern tools because they're consistent. The tips on the tools are not variable. Like some antler is tough, some antler is soft, some antler is tough and soft within the same antler. Or if you turn the antler, it's going to be soft on one side and hard on the other side. You don't have to deal with that sort of thing with metal. Another thing is I can do a lot of indirect percussion and save my wrist. Whereas with abo tools, a lot of times the pressure option is your best option, because with antler you can create some nice pressure flakes. I mean, they're super nice. So you want to kind of get more into the pressure flaking aspect. But I'm not going to be able to do that because I want to make sure I don't get arthritis. I laugh because it's highly disappointing for many people. They want to see abo tools all the time. All abo, all the time. There are other channels for that. So you can, but you know that already. I will try to do, like I said, more abo this summer, or when the weather gets a little bit better. That way I don't have to be fussing too much with this extra hardship, extra little confined space. I can kind of stretch out, use the hammer stones like I want to, use the billets like I want to, because it requires a lot of force with these abo tools. If I'm working stubborn rock, I want to be able to have space. So that's my story, okay? That's my excuse. All right. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go to the center and not past center. Why would you want to do that on purpose? Like back in the day, back in the old days? Was it that they wanted to do that, or was it because they couldn't go further than that? Was it because they wanted to, or because that's as far as they could take it? They really couldn't do the flaking that went across without messing it up. So they intentionally didn't flake past halfway. It's a good question. But I think in my opinion, I would be more inclined to think that they did thick points for strength because of their hunting style, or maybe even what they're shooting it at. Not only what they're shooting it at, but where are they hitting the animal? Are they hitting the animal in areas where there's lots of bone? You know, you want to be able to survive the impact with bone. That's one thing. Do they want to actually pierce bone? Are they hitting skulls with these type of points? And it is possible you can shoot an animal head on in the face. You can force it to charge you, or tempt it to attack you and then shoot it from the front. Hit it in the forehead, hopefully. But you need to penetrate bone. Alright, so maybe they were doing that. Who knows? Let's see. What else can I think of? What else can I make up? Oh, that's not good. I don't like when I hit and nothing happens, because sometimes there's an incipient crack. I got lucky on that case. No incipient cracks. Okay. So I'm just carefully looking for spots. I'm doing a lot of abrading because I don't want step fractures. I want a nice, every time I do a flake, I want a nice smooth flake. Why don't I do that every time? It's because this gets old, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to do it specifically and specially for this particular piece just because I have a request. But normally I don't like to abrade this much. I will skip the abrading and tolerate the step fractures, the funny looks I get, the funny comments I get, just out of being lazy and expedient. Yeah, because I could abrade every platform every time I nap, refine the tool tip very regularly so that I get a consistent flake removal every single time, every time. But I don't usually. All right, so I've got, this is the basic shape. All right, oops, the basic shape of the Lake Mojave. Now all I got to do is refine the edges. Now I'm going to make the stem longer than halfway, and the tip, you know, up here. So everything from this downward is going to be the stem. And Lake Mojaves have slight shoulders. You'll see what I mean. The blades are randomly napped, but I'm going to put pressure flakes in this. I'm going to do a pressure flake round all the way around the edges. I was going to do most of this with, well, I was going to do it all with indirect percussion, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do some pressure flaking. This material is okay for pressure flaking. I don't need to put that much force into it. The bases are convex. Convex. Now it didn't, in the description that I read, it didn't say anything about symmetry. Highly symmetrical. I don't think these were highly symmetrical. So it lends itself to being made in a mass production style where you can make a bunch of these, not a problem. No problem at all. If it's tough stone, no problem. If you've got inconsistencies in the stone, no problem. Don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. Doesn't have to be paper thin. No special flake scar pattern, it's all random. You just grind the edges later on. So don't worry about it too much. You know, if you were to put nice fancy flakings on the edges and then grind them off, that wouldn't be efficient, or that wouldn't make sense. So don't worry about the edges too much. That's what they would say, I imagine. Alright, right here is where I'm going to stop the stem. And yeah, after doing 3 or 4 or 5 of these, I imagine you can get pretty fast at it. It's already taken me, what, 45 minutes? Of course, I did do some yapping, some talking, ranting. complaining. The auctions are going well, by the way. I can't complain too much. I was always wondering how I was going to start selling my items. Started on eBay, but eBay takes too much commission, and it adds an extra layer of hassle because it allows people to take advantage of the buyer guarantees. Like if you're a buyer, you're very well protected, which is good. But with that protection, you can also abuse it to where you can take advantage of the refund system. And the complaint system, if you don't really care that you're being abusive, you can take advantage. As a buyer, you can take advantage of that situation. Anyway, it didn't work out very well. It works out better if I just have my own auction, even though there's some issues with the YouTube comment format. It's not entirely reliable. The time stamps, I call them time stamps, but it's just a little thing on a comment that shows you how old it is. Just a little note on the comment that it's 1 day old, 5 minutes old, 10 minutes old, whatever. That's not always accurate for various reasons. I don't know if it's because of the connection of the commenter or it's just a glitch in the YouTube system. Sorry about that. Anyway, if you're okay with dealing with those little issues, you might feel like you got ripped off. If you have trouble dealing with that, just email me and say, I don't want to participate in the auction because I don't want the risks. I don't like the format. I might not have my bid recognized, or you might make a mistake, which is fine. Not blaming you. But I want to guarantee that if I pay for something or bid on something, that it's going to show up. And if there's no guarantee, then I don't want to participate. That sort of thing, which is perfectly okay. Perfectly fine. All right. I'm trying to get rid of that step fracture just so I can get rid of it. But if I have to take too much off the thickness, I'm going to give up on it. Okay. I can probably get it with a good strike without taking off too much thickness. Now, some of these stems were thinned, but they were thinned from the sides and not from the base, but from the sides. Yeah, so that doesn't look too bad. But now I got to make it a little more symmetrical. And the first one is always the hardest one because you want to get it to look right. I don't have a real artifact to go by. Just pictures on the internet. I'm trying to focus here. All right, so I think that'll do it. Spend an hour trying to make it look like I made it in 5 minutes. That happens a lot, actually. Okay. It happens a lot. Alright, so let's see, before I get much further, the notes on here. Let's see, stem width. Well, the blade width is 13 to 35 millimeter. There's no stem width down here that I could see online. Overall length, 92 millimeters is the most. 35 to 50 is the average. So I just put 2 to 3 inches length. I still got that. I'm pretty sure I got all the proportions. Okay. Golly, it's already 20 minutes. All right, so what's that? 68. This is 8. 24. 4 to 1. Yeah, that's the widest part is 24 by 8. So that's, what's that? 3 to 1. It's good. Good. All right. See, make a differentiation between the stem and the blade. Where is it? I'm going to go a little higher. It's right here right now. Let me go a little bit higher. And with the stem, you want to get rid of any weak areas, because when you grind it, it's going to hit the weak area and it might break off too much. So you want to make sure you break off the weak areas ahead of time in a controlled way, so when you start grinding, you don't run into unpredictable issues. I don't know. Let's see. It might be getting too narrow. But I don't think I'm too narrow. All right. Let's see. Now, if I had an example of a point, or if I could look at more points in general on this style, I could kind of count how many flakes are present. See, right now I did a lot of flaking there. Is that present on the real ones? That type of flaking, or is it just a few bold ones down the sides? I can't really tell from the internet, from the photographs there. It looks like a lot of flaking sometimes and sometimes not, depending on the piece. But I can't be sure. Sometimes the pieces they show on the internet are not the usual ones, or not the good ones, the kind that are representative of the type, so-called. So some of you might say, no, it's not the kind that I want. Yeah, that's a Lake Mojave, but it's not really the one I'm looking for. Looking for the average type, not the type you're doing. That sort of thing. All right, so the blade, I'm going to do indirect percussion, just so I can get some more, get the flakes a little bolder. Boulder flakes. Flakes from boulders? No. More pronounced. You know, like that. Instead of a little bitty pressure flake, I want a pronounced big flake. So it kind of stands out. Not flakes that are as big as boulders. Okay. I can still do those little flakes with indirect percussion. Dang it, I just think I made a mistake. I can do the bolder flakes with, the little ones with indirect percussion too. I made a mistake because I forgot I needed to remove a step fracture right there. Okay, maybe I removed it. Alright, so yeah, I need to do, if I'm going to do this indirect percussion stuff on the blade, I got to make sure I do bold flakes and not little bitty flakes. Right? Right. And try not to thin it down too much, because then it doesn't look right. Not too many step fractures, because you've been doing this for 10 years. What's the matter? Why all the step fractures? Like a newbie. Oh well. Alright, I'm going to sharpen the tip with a few pressure flakes. Grind the sides. I don't think these shoulders are sharp, so I'm going to make sure that's not sharp. I think the sides are very straight as far as looking at it from the top. The sides are very straight. Yeah. The symmetry, I looked online, they don't appear to be all that symmetrical. But I imagine they're pretty darn sharp. So I gotta make sure there's no dull spots. It's gonna have to be good enough. Ouch, that one. I don't know. I've really got to start paying attention to how I'm holding the pressure flaker. Because if I hold it in any weird way whatsoever, if I take a shortcut and hold it in a way that's not perfectly straight, I have wrist pain. So, and then it affects the way I flake. Yeah, so unless I'm perfectly straight with my wrist, I have very little leeway this way or that way to move my wrist without pain. Unfortunately, sometimes that lack of mobility prevents me from getting the flake I want. But, oh well. Yeah, okay. It's getting late. This will be available in the auction for those of you who are interested. If you don't want to participate in the auction, or you're afraid that you won't be able to bid properly, just send me an email for what you might want. I'll see if I can provide it. I usually put stuff that I get requests from on the side. I usually put those on the back burner. Could take several months to several days, several weeks to get it done. So I apologize about that ahead of time. But I only have so many hours in a day. Okay. All right, so that's it. A lot of these were worn down to nubs. Some of these were longer blades, like the stem is half of the blade itself. This one here, total of, it's like 2 5/8, 3/4 inch wide, pretty much. Okay, hopefully that helps. Cross section is biconvex, which means it's pretty thick, relatively speaking. 4-to-1, 3-to-1, or 4-to-1. All right. There we go. I'm not sure what happened there, a little ding. Okay.